and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the criticism on the Sindh Local Government Act, the opposition's protest, where the standoff is at this time, what are the likely ramifications of this kind of standoff where the other parties are united against the PPP. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the local government elections, on the pending local government elections in KP and Punjab, what the government expects, the opposition, and of course the challenges for the government in that quarter. All of that today. On Perspective, I have with me Siddiqul Farooq from the PMLN. Thank you for joining us. Barrister Muhammad Ali Saif from the PTI. Thank you for being with us. Ali Rashid from the PPP. Thank you for joining us. Asia Nasir from JUIF. Thank you for being with us. Ji. Siddiqul Farooq sahab, overall, let's talk about the local government standoff that's happening in Karachi at this time, in Sindh at this time. Overall, how do you see, I mean, of course, there's a unity against the PPP. You're saying it's black law, all of those things. Whereas the PPP says that it even catered to some of the amendments that were objectionable, and that this is just a ploy to a blackmailing ploy, so to speak.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think it is the responsibility of the government to bring all parties to table and discuss with them. If it has announced that it's ready to accommodate positive amendments, then it should not delay extending invitation to opposition parties. They have contacted Jamaat Islami, and they should contact now opposition if it is, especially PTI, is not in mood to protest against the government Local Bodies Act. But it will be advisable.
But it is, isn't it? The government is part of the protest, no?
The government?
Yes.
PTI government?
Yes.
Yes, PTI as a party in Karachi is in opposition. And as opposition, they are protesting.
But how do you see this kind of standoff? I mean, considering, of course, the federal government, the government in Sindh, of course, even other than the optics of it, overall, I mean, the relationship between the Sindh government and the federal government has, in any case, not been ideal.
Marukh, there is confusion in present system and political dispensation. This should have been removed. First of all, at center, at federal level, the federal government has not given due status to the opposition. They have not accepted their offers. They are not ready to sit with them and evolve consensus on certain issues. Similarly,
let me come back to you.
Yes.
I'm going to go to Barrister Muhammad Ali Saif. Ji, Barrister, I hope that you've been hearing what Siddiqul Farooq Sahab is saying. He's been talking about the fact that there, as far as the government is concerned, he seems to feel that they haven't really taken the opposition seriously enough. They haven't tried to take them on board, so to speak. There has been, I mean, I've been saying this now and again because there seems to be some bad blood between the opposition and the government. Do you think that, barring that aside, how do you look at this whole situation as far as the Local Government Act in Sindh is concerned, and now the overall protest itself, the standoff between the government and the Sindh government? Ji.
Well, insofar as the local government system and the concerning laws relating to local government is concerned, this has been a contentious issue between most of the political parties in Sindh and Pakistan People's Party, which is the ruling party. It's not a new problem. It's for the last, even in the last the tenure of the People's Party government, MQM and other opposition parties were protesting against the local bodies, the local government laws. The act was draconian. Most of the powers which are traditionally and logically and legally should be within the domain of local government was taken away by the provincial government, and local government was just made completely impotent without being able to perform. So therefore, this has a historical, antecedents as far as this particular law is concerned. Now, again, they have come up with new with this legislation, which is again being protested against by the opposition parties. And I think it's a genuine protest, because what's the point in having a local body government, which does not have any powers and no authority to perform its functions? Therefore, I think it's not just that the opposition at the federal level is being victimized by the federal government. It is the fact that the party which is in power in Sindh is in fact violating its own mandate by refusing to allow the required powers and authorities to the local government. So my point is that People's Party government must listen to the demands of the opposition parties, which are like a wide-ranging of political parties, ranging from Jamaat Islami at the extreme right to nationalist parties as well as liberal parties. All of them are complaining about the law. So their point of view should be accommodated if the Sindh government wants to have an ideal democratic dispensation and wants to take credit for it.
And if that doesn't happen, if the Sindh government chooses not to accommodate all the other parties, what's the way forward for this kind of opposition at this time?
Well, I believe that the government, the only way forward is dependent upon the government's attitude. If the behavior is draconian, authoritarian, dictatorial, then of course there will be no solution to the problem, and there will be agitation, and the working of the local government will jeopardize in the sense, or will be compromised in the sense that they will not be able to perform. And I personally believe that
take his opinion on what the PPP stance is, but historically, in the sense that in the last couple of years, the relationship between the federal government and the Sindh government has not been ideal. I mean, even your ministers, there have been constant accusations against the Sindh government by the federal government also. That's also a fact, right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get you because couldn't hear what you said, because I'm actually in a very difficult position. Actually, I'm in a public function and there's a lot of commotion around me, so I couldn't get it. Could you repeat?
Thank you for giving us your time, even though you were very busy. Ji, Ali Rashid Saab, I hope that you were following what Barrister Muhammad Ali Saif was saying. He was saying that it's draconian, black law, all of those things. And if the PPP government doesn't choose to accommodate the opposition, things can actually get uglier. What is the PPP stance?
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Well, I think the PPP stance is quite clear. And when this bill was tabled, and if you look at the process of the assembly, usually whatever your differences are, if you have a different point of view and you make more amendments, you can debate on the bill. But the opposition unfortunately boycotted and decided to go out on the street. And even after that, we were very flexible, and in every press conference, PPP said, look, if there's anything which you want to discuss, we can sit with you and discuss it. But not even once did any of these parties come and talk to us. And we have everything documented. All the suggestions which we had given, a lot of them were adopted. For example, they wanted towns as opposed to districts. Rightfully so, because when you one district, for example, District Central, is huge. So now that will consist of maybe 5 towns. So everything will be micro-managed and things will get done now, which is a good way forward. And I think if you look at the entire law, more powers have been given to the system. There's the tax collection, property tax, towns, and at the town level, the UC chairmen will be elected. We've even made the police and the education institute answerable to them. And in addition to that, we've also given the mayor a role in the water board and also in the Sindh Building Control Authority, which they used to earlier, want. So it's just beyond me that what is that which they are actually opposing, because, we cannot understand that. And
let's try and understand it. Ali, I'll just come back to you. I want to go to Barrister Safiullah Ghori ji. Safiullah, as a lawyer, what can you take us? I mean, what are some of what do you feel? Where are the problems as far as this law is concerned? Certainly, all parties are united against it. Apart from the Sindh government at this time, how do you see it, legally speaking?
Right. So I think, Marukh, the law is in fact quite clear. But before I sort of jump straight into the law, I want to comment on what the purpose of this Amendment Act of the local government was as well. So the Local Government Amendment Act takes away some of the powers that were to be transferred to the local government and brings them back to the provincial level. Those include health, education, and also several things like registry systems and also to a degree revenue systems. Now, prima facie, this would make sense. The reason why it would make sense is because we're in the middle of a pandemic. There is COVID everywhere. If you were to give the power of infectious diseases down to the local governments, you would not be able to expect them to create the necessary laws that are required to control such a global pandemic, or for that matter, other infectious diseases that come around. But then again, we have a very important question. And the next question becomes then, how can we trust the provinces with such powers? Because under the 18th Amendment, powers were devolved from the federal government to the provinces. And what is then to prevent somebody, say, from Karachi traveling to Lahore from transferring such diseases? So legally, the law is very clear. The law states that the power, once it goes to the local government, is devolved. It is not a delegated power. Devolved means that the power has now gone from the province down to the local government. It has not been delegated in the sense that the local government continues the power, holds the power, but gives the local government the power as well. The power is now, in fact, with the local government. The Sindh government simply cannot take it back. It's unconstitutional. And to that end, the Article 140A, which is all about what the Local Government Act is of the Constitution, and also Article 7, Article 8, and Article 32 of the Constitution of Pakistan, all prohibit what has been done. I feel that the Local Government Amendment Act has been challenged in the Sindh High Court, rightfully so, by all the parties. It's been challenged by Jamaat Islami, by MQM, by PTI.
But isn't it true that it's only Jamaat-e-Islami that's actually gone to court on it? All the other parties are, yes, protesting against it, but the party that's actually gone to court is Jamaat-e-Islami only. I mean, I think that's the position at this time. But you think that, of course, clarification is needed from the court on the issue. But again, Safiullah, before I go to Asya Nasir from the JUIF, overall, then again, we are again looking at a clarification from the court. We are again, the ball's again in, there seems to be discord, there seems to be disagreement between political parties that eventually will lead the court to be the ultimate arbiter, which is not ideal, right? Ji, I don't think Safiullah is with us anymore. Ji, Asya Nasir. Okay, Ji Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, let me ask you this question. Unfortunately, if this and Jamaat Islami has gone to court on this issue to seek a clarification, so invariably the court will be the arbiter, ultimate arbiter on this issue. When actually the government and the opposition should be able to manage to come to some agreement on their own without them going to court on every issue.
Of course.
Ji.
There must be a positive and objective political approach.
Right.
Political issues should be solved politically, and constitutional issues through parliament.
Right.
So I'm going to refer to the behavior of PTI as government in federal capital and in Punjab. They dissolved political bodies. And then reinstatement was made on the direction and judgment of judiciary. But even then, they didn't give them powers back, and they didn't release financial resources. Similarly, in KPK, the elections were held on the direction and judgment of Supreme Court. Here, if the PPP government doesn't come to terms, doesn't go for a political approach and for a consensus, then I think the court will have to give its judgment, and which should be then implemented. But it will not feasible for political developments.
Yes, right. Let me come back to you. Asya Nasir, overall we've been talking about the protest of the opposition on the local government bill. I hope you heard some of the conversation. Asya, do you think there's a chance that there can be some agreement on this? Do you think that there can, of course, it doesn't look like the PPP will cave, but of course we will now have some sort of a direction from the court.
Thank you very much, Marukh, first of all, for taking me on board. And I have been listening to the talk which the different party representatives are doing over here. I must say here that this ordinance which the PPP government has passed from the provincial government is truly unconstitutional, and it is against, I must say, the constitution, and it's against the spirit of democracy. Because People's Party have been always been champion for democracy. So what sort of democracy is it when you are not taking on board the different political parties within the parliament and outside the parliament? So I think that the only chance is that the Pakistan People's Party's government should take all the political parties on board. There should be clear-cut talks, and the all parties conference which was held in Sindh, the recommendations which that committee has given, they should be those recommendations should be considered. And the only chance is if this amendment bill is withdrawn and all the political parties are taken in confidence, and this whatever happens, a fresh amendment bill is required, which is aligned with the constitution. And secondly, I must condemn here the formulation or the constitution of a separate election commission for the local government in Sindh, because we have one election commission, and that is at the federal level in Islamabad. So what's the need of another election to constitute another election commission for your own interest? Thirdly, I would like to say, I would just like to remark that it has been a very common practice in Pakistan that different political parties and even the dictators, they have always tried to control and minister the provinces and resources through the local government. And I must say that once again, this practice is being considered.
Right, Asya, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Ali Rashid with the same question. Ali, why do we need another election commission? Can you answer that? What Asya Nasir is saying, she's saying that we have a federal election commission. Some of the provisions are certainly. Do you think there's a chance that, of course, now I guess one can say that the ball is out of the PPP's court in that sense, but do you think that there can be a chance to review this legislation to perhaps accommodate the opposition?
Yeah, certainly. You see, I was just listening to the previous speaker. She's saying that PPP is not taking the other parties on board. This could not be more wrong. If you all the press conferences are on document, and we've actually requested all the political parties to come forward, and we said, look, we can sit down and we can talk through everything you're saying. Maybe we'll just agree to everything you want. Maybe that can be done. But these guys are not ready to sit with us. And that just goes to show that their intentions are not clean. They have understood that their political survival is just by going out and being on the roads, because they're seeing all the by-elections in Sindh, all the elections in Karachi, the cantonment elections, the National Assembly by-elections, all of them have lost. MQM has no model grounds, not even a single time they've come out to protest against the installation, the gas load shedding in Karachi, yet they're the kingmakers party. If they want, they can topple the government, yet not once have they come out for the people of Karachi. I mean, at least I want to, give salute to Pervez Khattak. At least, he stood up against Imran Khan, his own party, his own prime minister, and talked for his people. Did MQM even once talk to the prime minister about Karachi, about the Karachi package, about the gas crisis, the inflation, or did they protest? Nothing, zero. But they're coming out and protesting against this. And who protests? People protest.
Ali, let me come back to you. I don't have anyone, unfortunately, we don't have anyone from the MQM right now, and it would be a question for them. But Sadiqul Farooq Saab, you are part of the protest. The PMLN is part of the protest. Why do you think that, according to what Ali Rashid is saying, he's saying that, they haven't tried to get the PPP to accommodate them. They haven't tried to, the route that's actually now being followed is only the protest. I mean, there hasn't been an attempt to get them to come to some sort of middle ground.
I will rather request my party that if PPP extends invitation and takes them on board, they should listen to PPP.
But Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, isn't this like a tricky situation, considering the fact that you are part of, I mean, let me just clarify, I'll let you answer. But overall, I mean, whether the PPP is part of the PDM or not, they were initially part of the PDM. They also say that they support your opposition against the federal government over the issue of the price hike, inflation, all of those things. And now this, it's kind of itself, the situation is quite tricky, no? Your relationship with the PPP, the PMLN.
As far as PMLN and PPP are concerned, I think in the National Assembly, we have evolved consensus on putting pressure on the federal government and suggesting them very, very positive things to improve economy and to release the pressure which the people of Pakistan are facing due to their policies. But here, let me make it clear that when PPP announced its long march from 28th of February, I think, the PTI being and its allies being in the opposition in Sindh, they have also announced a long march in Sindh from Karachi to Thatta, I think, just to put pressure on PPP. So here we should not be party to it. But as far as the local government is concerned, there if opposition considers and takes into consideration positive suggestions, I think to that extent my party should cooperate with the opposition. But as far as their long march is concerned, there my party should not be part of that.
Okay, so for you there's a direct, I mean, that's your opinion.
That's my opinion, and you will see
that is the stance of the PMLN.
That must be the stance, and you will see that this is the stance, inshallah.
Okay, I want to go to Barrister Safiullah Ghori. Ji, Safiullah, overall, now that the Jamaat-e-Islami has gone to court, the legal position with regard to this bill, the local government, it's an act now. So for the court to interfere, I mean, I'm just going to ask you to evaluate what are the chances of the court actually, considering the fact that it's an act, considering the fact that now it's been passed, all of those things. How do you see this, now that the court has been involved?
Right. So, Marukh, I think let's just, if we were to just look at how the courts would look at it, the petitions filed in the courts are writ petitions. These are petitions that challenge the writ of the government to pass such acts. Now, we all know that no act can be against the Constitution of Pakistan. And the Constitution of Pakistan lays out a very clear mechanism in Article 148 stating that there ought to be local government elections, and also mentions that the ultimate idea of the state is to devolve sums from the state to the local governments. Unfortunately, that has never happened. In fact, according to Ishrat Hussain, former governor of State Bank, 57.7% of all funds that were supposed to go to the local governments never ended up there. This has resulted in tremendous loss to the people of Pakistan. This has resulted in loss in health. This has resulted in loss in sanitation, in clean drinking water, in education, and in the overall satisfaction that people have with the governments. So now the important question then is that, would the courts feel happy to interfere? And I feel this is what I was trying to say earlier when I said that the act the Constitution of Pakistan under Article 140A states that the power must devolve to the local government. Now, the power, when we say the word devolve, we mean that the power will go from the provinces and will become the power of the local government. It is not as if to say that the provinces will have that power and they will only delegate it to the local governments. This is to say that it is the local governments who will actually have that power. And the question now is, can the provinces even take that power away from the local government? So it is my opinion, by a bare reading of the Constitution, that the provinces do not have the power to legislate on a matter that is a matter of the local governments and not a matter of the federal government or of the provinces. So I hope that the courts will give a judgment that empowers the local governments, not just in Sindh, where the situation is really bad, but also in Balochistan, where the BAP has been dragging on these elections. The situation is just as bad in Punjab, and the situation has been absolutely horrible in KPK as well, although things are now improving thanks to some of the elections that have taken place.
So in a sense, then this would clarify the whole situation, certainly, once there is a verdict, once there is a direction from the court.
Absolutely, and I do feel that it's about time. There are certain important judgments that have come about on the issues of the local governments by the courts. Unfortunately, those have not been given any value either. So there's a very famous case called the Mubashir Javed case, in which the courts and Justice Jawad Hassan stated that local governments had a fixed start and an end point, and that they need to be given powers for them to function. Unfortunately, those powers haven't been given. It appears that the chief ministers continue to usurp the powers that local governments have. So this is going to be an interesting case. I feel like once again the courts have to give a decision based on various other Supreme Court decisions based on the Constitution of Pakistan and their reading of it. But all in all, I can hope that this will result in some good for the government and for the people of Pakistan.
Let me come back to you. I'll go to Asya now. Asya, overall, as far as the local government elections are concerned, certainly we will have a direction from the court now, and according to what Barrister Safiullah was saying, he's saying that, this kind of direction will be helpful at large if we look at the situation in the other provinces also. But overall, as far as the local government elections in KP are concerned, and then, Punjab, what do you think the overall position is? Of course, we've seen the setback the government has had in the polls that have already happened in the local government polls already in KP, and preceding that we saw certain adjustments made within the party, all of those things. How do you view the situation now?
Yes, Marukh, actually, we are very minutely and very keenly observing all the advancements and all the changes which are taking place within all the provinces, especially during the local government elections. And recently what we have observed in KPK, that the mandate which was stolen from the people of KPK, they have snatched it away. And they have snatched it away only through giving their mandate to the genuine political parties, or the political parties they really thought that can deliver best in the larger interest of the people or the nation or the country. Now we are looking towards the elections to be held in Punjab and in Sindh and in Balochistan. And definitely JUIF is really it has really worked very hard, and we are very much confident that like KPK will take lead in Sindh also, in Punjab also, in Balochistan especially we will take the lead. But the thing is that the government is making all the tactics that how again it can take away the election. Secondly, I was just hearing Mr. Saf that he was very right, that the powers have never been delegated to the local governments, because JUIF strongly believe in provincial autonomy, and we strongly believe that power needs to be transferred and delegated to the local governments, because only there and then the people can get their aspirations and their sentiments translated and get their fundamental rights very well. So I think that JUIF is really preparing very well, have prepared very well, and is playing very well. And we are very much confident. And unfortunately, I must say that we always act on the directions of the court. Why can't the political parties sit together?
Let me just come back to you.
Why can't the political parties take their own decisions?
Let me come back to you. Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, the local bodies elections, whatever happened in the KP, of course, like we were earlier discussing, those elections are also in March now, and following that, the Punjab overall. We've also recently had the mini budget. Overall, what is your position? What does the PMLN think will happen now? There's also, structural changes within the PTI party, which, of course, the Prime Minister is hoping will lead to a more deliverable outcome from the local government polls.
Marukh, as far as these local bodies are concerned, in my opinion, all political parties, whether they are in government or in opposition, must adopt a positive political approach.
Okay.
They should give due, especially the governments, should give due role to the local bodies. They should empower them and also give them ample funds so that these bodies, according to Western societies and democracies, should be able to solve people's problems at grassroots levels. Any other approach or any confusion will actually put the people of Pakistan or people of provinces in difficulties.
Right.
So they should realize that these are the only bodies and this is the only approach that local bodies should be empowered and help to solve people's problems.
But isn't that the thought between the local bodies elections anyway, behind the local bodies elections anyway?
It should be. If it is not, it is.
But is it not? What is the thought behind?
So far, because the system is not, there is no continuity in the system.
Okay.
First of all, if continuity of the system is ensured, these things will evolve. But at this time, all are not kids, political leaders and political parties. They should adopt a positive approach.
Okay.
It's high time now.
But you're talking, I think that's a very rational thought that's coming from, when you're talking about the fact that they should all be. But what's your opinion on what's happening at this time as far as the local bodies?
At this time, what is happening, especially if I refer to PTI, you look, they have their approach, as I have already referred to, the dissolution of the system, local body system in Islamabad, similarly in Punjab, that was not a good thing. So if the more responsibility lies with the federal government or the provincial governments.
Right. Okay.
As far as the mini budget is concerned, it will increase prices at least 20%, 70% GST. So
you're saying overall it will be difficult.
Overall, it will be very difficult. Different people and especially the government representatives say that people should tighten belt. Prices will come down soon, but there is a limit to tighten belt. Up to what extent? The people, especially the poor and the middle class, so they are in trouble.
Right. Let me go to Ali Rashid. I'll come back to you. Ali, what do you expect? What is? I mean, of course, we've seen some inroads being made in Punjab also, as far as the PPP is concerned. What are your expectations from the local bodies polls?
Well, we feel that we've been working very hard, and we are focusing on Punjab. Sindh, we are very confident, obviously, will sweep, as you've been seeing all the recent elections. And even in Punjab, if you saw in the recent by-elections, our vote bank has actually gone up. Usually, when you compare to regular elections and by-elections, you get lesser votes. But I think PPP was the only party. Our votes actually went up. So we are expecting good things. And on that note, I would also like to add, when you talk about the Constitution and you talk about the Local Bodies Act and the law, you see the issue here is that when you read the Constitution, it's very clear about the role of the Prime Minister, the Chief Minister, etc., etc. But when it comes to the local government, it only has two lines in 140A. And it leaves the interpretation to the Sindh government or the Sindh assembly or the province to decide. And the majority of that assembly decides what kind of law they want for the province. So it is saying, I mean, we can take suggestions from all the opposition, but at the end of the day, it's democracy and it's our right, and we get to decide what kind of law we want to bring. So I just wanted to add that.
I hope that you heard what Ali is saying. He's saying that, you know, it's a discretionary. It leaves for the assembly to then decide. And, you know, the fact that it only lays down the guidelines, which is what he's saying. He's saying that the 2 lines then leave it for the parliament or the Sindh assembly to legislate on it. Would you agree on that?
Sorry, is the question for me, Marukh?
Ji, it's a question for you.
Right. So I will just say, and he's absolutely correct when he states that, you know, Article 140A has maybe, let's not even focus on the 2 lines. Let's focus on the singular word devolve, instead of even thinking about what the rest of the article says. So we have to now, the courts are now, it's not the assembly, by the way, that has the task of deciding what the word devolve means. It is the courts that will now decide what the word devolve means. Now in the English language,
because you've gone to court, you can't, I mean, you haven't been able to do it yourself. You have this disagreement on it, you have this opposition on it, you have this standoff on it. So therefore, you've ultimately landed up in court, which is what's been happening on a host of issues, right?
Of course, and that continues to happen. But just to sort of discuss the powers here, just like so here's what it is for the courts to decide: whether matters pertaining to health, education, local registries, things that have now already been devolved under the Sindh Local Government Act of 2013, which this now act is trying to amend. Whether this act has the ability to amend that devolved power. And once again, I will bring you back to the difference between the word devolve and the word delegate. The law is very clear on the way they use the word devolve and delegate. When they use the word delegate, as is so often used in institutions like OGRA, institutions like the SECP, when they say the word delegate, it means that I have the power, say the government of Sindh, I have the power, I have given the local governments the power, and if I so want, I can take it back, because I am the one who is the central repository of the power. When the word devolve is used, it means that I have transferred my power over to somebody else, and now I no longer have that power. And can I take that power now by a law? Maybe not. Just like the power of the federation has been devolved to the provinces, and now the federation cannot take back that power by passing a law in the National Assembly. In the same way, the Sindh government cannot take back power that has been devolved to the local government by passing a law. And that is what the court is, that is why the court is there to decide on this matter and to figure out whether this power is doing that be taken back by the Sindh government or not in the first place.
And you think that the Sindh government is attempting to do this?
Well, obviously, the Sindh government has passed a law. So there's no doubt about the fact that the Sindh government is trying to impugn upon the powers that have already been given to the local government under the 2013 Act. And so now we need to see if the 2021 Act of the local government is in line with the 2013 Act and also in line with the Constitution of Pakistan.
Okay, and that, of course, the court will decide.
Yes.
Ji, Asya. Overall, I hope you've been following our conversation. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'd like your quick comments on the local bodies standoff, so to speak. Of course, now the court will decide, they will clarify, which in a sense is good. According to Safiullah Saab, he seems to think that legally speaking, it's something, the clarification is needed not only for the Sindh, the province of Sindh, but across the board for all provinces.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much, Mario. Once again, I would just like to, a quick comment is that unless and until the same remark I would like to make.
Ji, Asya? Sorry, I don't think that there's a problem with audio. Ji, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, your comments before we close. You think that, you know, it's okay, you know, we can't manage as far as the government and the opposition is concerned. There's a long history of not being able to manage. So let the court decide. Let's see what the court holds.
Of course, and then the court will have to decide.
The court will have to decide.
The court has been approached by JI, so here are in KPK. Other parties also went to court. What I would say is that this is unfortunate. that the political forces, political parties and their leadership should be flexible in accommodating others on merits.
Right.
If anybody in the opposition suggests something objective, positive, it should be accepted.
But Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, how often, since you're saying all of these things, how often do you have the opposition come up with really concrete alternatives rather than just criticism for the sake of criticism?
Our system,
very rarely so.
When I say that our system should not be derailed off and on. If this system, if the continuity is in system, then these things will be evolved. There should not be any interference from outside.
But you have your leader, Maryam Nawaz, said that, before in her statement 2 days ago, she said that, first there was this general agreement that we should let this government continue. But now the condition is so bad that I think she thinks that on all fronts, the government should, this government should somehow
that was a political approach and right approach. But when after this previous to this mini budget, 17% of GST, etc., it has ruined the economic life of the have-nots and middle class.
So then continuity will. So then you are saying that the continuity should be derailed, in effect.
No, continuity means the constitutional continuity.
Okay, fair.
But here, if in no confidence, if the government is changed, it is in accordance with constitution.
Right.
And as far as the claim of my younger brother about PPPs winning elections in Punjab is concerned, I think PPP may get some seats.
Right.
But PMLN, inshallah, will sweep.
Whatever. Let's see what happens in that front. Thank you so much for joining us, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. Thank you for your time. Barrister Muhammad Ali Saif, thank you for being with us. Ali Rashid, thank you for joining us. Barrister Safiullah Ghori, thank you for your time. Asiya Nasir, thank you for being with us today. Of course, as far as the issue of local government act is concerned, certainly the clarification has been sought from the court by Jamaat-e-Islami, and of course there will be a clarification. It's unfortunate in a sense that there seems to be these standoffs between the government and the opposition, sometimes the government and other institutions, that invariably lead to the court being the ultimate decision maker and deciding on those issues. One would hope that there would be some kind of a relationship between the government and the opposition for them to come up with solutions on their own, with some accord, with some working relationships. But unfortunately that hasn't happened. History has seen there being this kind of discord ever since one can remember. One hopes that we will achieve that in politics at some point. But let's see what the court holds, and I guess the clarification is much needed, so to speak. Thank you so much for being with us today on Perspective.